And I want to tell you a story about a young woman. Her name is Sara Jimenez. She's 59. And she remembers a moment where she stopped feeling safe in her own home. In July, the Environmental Protection Agency sent her a letter that said the soil in front of her front and backyard contained high concentrations of lead and arsenic. Officials from the EPA has taken soil samples for more than a year previous, but Jimenez hadn't heard from them since. She was angry, she was confused, and Miss Jimenez is not alone. And I know you think we're talking about Flint, but we're not. We're talking about East Chicago. Jimenez lives in East Chicago, about a mile from the USS Lead smelting facility, now an EPA Superfund site. Lead pollution has endangered families, slashed property values, and forced some residents to evacuate their homes in East Chicago. Locals have criticized the EPA for not addressing the problem sooner, and they are worried about Trump's proposed cuts to the agency's budget. And since the lead and arsenic concentration was found in the soil in East Chicago, the EPA officials have gone door to door warning children not to play in the dirt. Some 20% of the children who live in this community are under the age of 7, living and have high levels of lead in their blood already. Now, the closure of the small facility, lead contaminant, is especially severe. Authorities plan to demolish a housing complex which was built on top of the former lead smelting plant in West Calumet, which is home to more than 1,100 people, mostly children. Now, these are all people that will be affected, and they have been affected by lead poisoning. This is not the first time we've seen this, right? But let me just give you a little more of the story, and then I'm going to talk about it. So in January, the EPA announced that as many as 90% of the homes in East Chicago could have lead water lines. The EPA recommended residents assume their lines are contaminated and use certified filters. Research shows that there is no safe level of lead in the blood. Exposure to any even small amounts of lead can cause irreversible brain damage, leading to a lower IQ. The risks are especially high for children and pregnant women. Miscarriages, abnormal behavior, and cancer have all been linked to lead and arsenic exposure. America. We talk about America being a place where if you work hard and you play by the rules, you have a shot at the American dream. Over the past couple of years, we have seen the American dream for far too many families turn into an American nightmare. It first started in Flint, where for years the people were being willingly poisoned by the people who managed Flint water. Then we learned about lead contamination in schools in Newark, where old water fountains and old pipes had exposed children after playing on the playground would come in and drink from a water fountain that exposed them to lead. Now we have the story of East Chicago and West Calumet, two places in Illinois where we have found higher than normal lead and arsenic levels in soil and water pipes, on and on and on. How do you expect the people of East Chicago to, quote unquote, pull themselves up by their bootstrap if the government, whose job is supposed to protect them, is literally poisoning them? So you went to go pick up the soil from Miss Jimenez and other people who lived in East Chicago, Illinois, and you were like, oh, and it took you a year to figure out that there was lead in the soil and lead in the water, and now these people are like, there's no relief for these people. This is not a third world country. We are the most powerful country in the world. And yet, our people are being poisoned by stuff that we should have got rid of in 1982. And what adds insult to injury, both in Flint and in East Chicago and in the Newark schools, and we also found that there was some lead in a couple of Detroit public schools as well, is now we have a president who's a fool, number one, and Trump's proposed budget includes a 42% cut to the cleanup of industrial pollution and a 23% cut to enforcement. So that means now, if Trump's budget passes as is, the federal government won't even go look for the lead. Right? And they won't enforce people poisoning the water. Like, they won't be like, you can't poison the water here. what we are doing, what we are saying to some of our most vulnerable citizens in this country is we don't care about you. We don't really care if you live or die. We don't want you to thrive. We don't want you to succeed. And if that's Donald Trump's definition of make America great again, then he can have it and he can go to hell with it. Because these people are being willingly poisoned. We knew, the government had to know, okay? The government had to know when they built a housing plant on top of what used to be a lead smelting site, that there was going to be lead in the water. This is egregious, ridiculous, and it's downright un-American.